Asus is back with their new Scar 17, which might look familiar, and that's because it is. They have made zero changes to the design of this laptop since last year, but that's okay because the best changes come from the inside. Under the hood, the 2023 ROG Strix Scar 17 is packed with AMD's latest and greatest Ryzen 7000 mobile chip, the Ryzen 9 7945HX, which packs actual desktop caliber performance, as we'll see later. And another staple of this machine is the RTX 4090 mobile, although do remember that the 4090 mobile is actually a 4080 desktop in disguise, hence the 16GB of VRAM. But it does go to the maximum that Nvidia allows at 175 watts, which is impressive for a laptop. And speaking of RAM, it comes with 32GB of 4800MHz RAM. Considering the laptop's price tag of around $3,500, some might find this RAM capacity a bit disappointing, and also especially since Ryzen loves fast RAM. You would think they would at least give us 64GB of RAM for that price, or maybe next year. You also only get a 1440p screen, although it's IPS and has 100% DCI EP3 coverage. And yes, it does support G-Sync and Optimus with a mux switch, as well as Dolby Vision and HDR. More on that later. For storage, you get a 1TB PCIe 4.0 SSD, which is blazing fast and spacious enough for most games. And the battery is 90 Wh, which is not the highest capacity you can get, which is 99 Wh, which is the max that is allowed to go on a plane, but it is still pretty par for the course. Overall, for the price, I would say it's definitely fairly good. You can confidently say that it's sensibly priced for the specs that you get, although they did cut a few corners to afford that CPU and the GPU. Moving on to the port selection. On the right side, you have nothing other than a few vents, of course. Moving over to the left side though, you get two USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type A ports, and a single 3.5mm audio jack. But at the back is where most of the ports are, with two USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type C ports that both support DisplayPort with G-Sync, a single HDMI 2.1 port, and a 2.5GB LAN port, and finally the charging port. It's a port selection that really isn't lacking if you ask me. Although it would have been nice to see an SD card reader. You know, for those of us who still use cameras and not just our phones. Or maybe a Thunderbolt port for some extra speed and versatility. But hey, beggars can't be choosers, right? Now as stated, its design has not changed at all since last year, but that doesn't take away from the fact that it's still an edgy and very gamery looking design, with plenty of streaks, accents, and vents all around. If you're a gamer, then you'll appreciate this design, as it just screams gaming. That is not even mentioning the RGB, as there's plenty of that to go around too, with a full perky RGB keyboard and an RGB visor that wraps around the front of the laptop, all of which can be controlled using the pre-installed Armory crate. There's also a nice touch of lighting at the back of the laptop with a quite nice backlight bleed aesthetic on the outline of the ROG logo from the internal display. Opening up the laptop reveals a quite nice keyboard area with a pretty decent keyboard. It feels perfectly adequate to type on, with surprising travel for a chiclet keyboard, and zero depth flex to speak of. Although, the layout meant that I found myself misclicking a few keys. It's something that you'll probably get used to though. It's a nice full-size keyboard with a numpad and plenty of multimedia function keys to boot. The trackpad as well felt okay to use. Again, not amazing, but good enough to do basic tasks with. It's also large enough for my liking. Palm rejection is fairly good here as well. It also supports precision touchpad drivers, which is what we have come to expect on every laptop. Moving along now to the speakers, I would definitely say they're surprisingly good. They are not as loud as the MSI GT77 we took a look at, but what they compensate with is really deep bass, which you can really feel despite this thing only having a dual speaker setup. Here, take a listen. The display is rather good as well. Being only 1440p does mean you're not going to have the highest resolution experience, but it does make up for it by being 240Hz, meaning it's ultra smooth in games. It is a bit of an odd choice, with the best GPU and CPU you can get in a laptop. But again, some corners had to be cut to get all this at this price point. To restate, its viewing angles are quite impressive as well, thanks to it being IPS, and it has fairly good black levels and contrast, and is quite bright and vibrant. You can expect about a 3 millisecond response time on this, which is pretty par for the course for many gaming laptops. Webcam, on the other hand, is not that impressive, being only a 720p webcam. It looks extremely washed out and has no resemblance of detail whatsoever, which is not that surprising given that it is a tiny sensor. I seriously don't get why a lot of these laptops can think they can get away with putting a 720p webcam in 2023. The mic sounds pretty par for the course as well. The charger is pretty small given the circumstances, even though it is 330 watts, due to the fact that it's a GaN charger, or gallium nitride charger, and is much smaller than the big ass charger from the MSI GT77HX. The battery life on the SCAR 17 was pretty surprising, lasting 7 hours and 4 minutes while idle and 4 hours and 9 minutes while playing back video. Its idle battery did end up surpassing the GT77HX, but it fell short in video playback. But do remember that that laptop had a slightly larger 99 watt hour battery. I know we say this in every one of our laptop reviews, but do remember that this does not translate into real world actual battery life, as for one, it's on the lowest screen brightness with all the RGB and lighting turned off, and battery saver modes turned on where possible. This means any actual intensive tasks that you're potentially doing on this machine, such as video editing or gaming, would drain the battery life in an instant. So don't expect to game on this laptop without plugging it in, unless you want the battery life to drain in an instant. Trust me, you don't want that. This laptop is meant to be plugged in for optimal performance and longevity. Now as for power and thermals on this machine, well, they're pretty reasonable. Asus has packed this thing with an absolute monster of a cooling system, with a huge vapor chamber and 2 Asus arc flow fans, combined with some liquid metal in the GPU and the CPU. Starting with the peak power of the CPU in Cinebench R23, it sparks up to a pretty reasonable 128 watts, which is much less compared to the GT77HX. And while gaming, it does draw slightly higher than the GT77HX at 92 watts. And for thermals, well, in both Cinebench and gaming, the 7945HX in this laptop peaks at around 95 degrees, which is obviously not great, but as we'll see later, these temperatures don't really matter at all when it comes to performance. Although it does throttle a bit, it doesn't throttle a lot, and this is all thanks to AMD's boosting algorithm in the 7000 series, which allows sustained boosts despite elevated temperatures. The GPU, on the other hand, draws upwards of 145 watts in gaming, while only really reaching 76 degrees Celsius, highlighting the actual performance of the cooler in this laptop. So the thermals for the GPU are rather good here, and the power draw is quite modest, especially when compared to the more power-hungry MSI GT77HX. Given that this is a gaming laptop, you would expect to be like a jet taking off your desk, and you would be right. Now let's get to the part that you've all been waiting for, and that's the benchmarks. The raw strength and power of the 7945HX are on full display as it rips through all the benchmarks we threw at it, especially in some of the sustained workloads, although AMD does fall short of the 13950HX when it comes to video editing in Premiere Pro. In everything else, it absolutely dominates. The GPU also tears through the benchmarks, matching the significantly more expensive GT77HX, which means it's safe to say that this thing is a true desktop replacement. Although not as fast once again as the GT77HX, the SSD in the SCAR 17 is definitely nothing to scoff at. As for the gaming experience, well, to no one's surprise, it was a breeze on this laptop. Starting us off in CSGO, a classic competitive shooter at max settings, at the native resolution of 1440p, we get about an average of 348.3 FPS, with 1.1% lows of 179.8 and 57.2 FPS respectively. The experience was smooth through and through, with it getting above the monitor's refresh rate most of the time, all while not looking like total garbage. There was no stuttering to speak of at all. Moving along now to another competitive shooter, Rainbow Six Siege, where at max settings once again a native resolution, we got 268.1 with excellent 1.1% lows of 183 and 157.3 FPS. Most of the time the game was getting above the screen refresh rate of 240Hz, meaning it gives excellent detail with more than adequate performance at these settings. I was able to kill some enemies without stuttering or hitches to speak of. Last up for today is good old Forza Horizon 5, where at the max settings, once again at native resolution, and also with DLSS frame generation set to on, we see impressive performance with 197.3 on average, all the while the 1.1% lows sat around 134.6 and 39.6 FPS. The gaming experience was nothing short of amazing, providing the utmost detail and smoothness when driving around Mexico, all thanks to that impressive DLSS 3 frame generation technology. In the grand scheme of things, the Asus ROG Strix Scar 17 is a high-end gaming laptop that checks almost all the boxes. This machine encapsulates Asus's commitment to innovation, performance, and functionality, all packed in an edgy, gaming-oriented design. On the performance front, this beast is a powerhouse with AMD's latest Ryzen 7000 mobile chip and the RTX 4090 mobile. It delivers robust performance whether you're into gaming, video editing, or intensive 3D rendering tasks. It stays fairly cool and quiet thanks to that impressive cooling system, featuring vapor changer technology and liquid metal. Overall, it offers a premium gaming experience that many will appreciate. Anyways guys, that's all for today. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Also make sure to check out this video on screen right now.